Today, 4 people were murdered in a northwest Oklahoma City home. Police confirming 3 of those victims were children, the oldest only 9 years old. We thank you for joining us here at 4:30. I'm Evan Onstad.
And I'm Zach Rael. Police confirming that a family member was the first to discover the gruesome scene late Wednesday night. These are the victims, 29-year-old Cassandra Flores, as well as her 9-year-old Hillary Armendariz and her siblings, 5-year-old Demarius and 2-year-old Matias. The shooter, Ruben Armendariz, was found dead after a self-inflicted gunshot wound where he later died at the hospital. Now, police believe he shot the 4 victims before turning the gun on himself. Again, he died at the hospital. Police say Cassandra and Ruben were married but separated. Ruben was the father of the 3 young children.
And guys, sadly, stories like this are not uncommon in our state. More women are killed by men in Oklahoma than in almost any other state, oftentimes by intimate partners. So something has to change, and today we want to talk about it. We're joined by several people in our community with insight and also resources. Deputy Chief Jason Clifton with Oklahoma City Police, Kim Garrett-Funk with Palomar, Angela Beatty with the YWCA, and Representative Forrest Bennett as well. Thank you all for staying with us and discussing this with us today. Angela, I want to start with you in this segment. Earlier we talked about the statistics. Oklahoma went from 8th in the nation to 2nd for women killed by men when it comes to domestic homicide. And you have another number that's just out, another statistic when it comes to domestic violence specifically in our state.
Yeah, so there was a study that was conducted that reported that up to 49% of Oklahoma women experience some sort of domestic violence during the course of their lifetime. There's been another study that says that Oklahoma ranks 1st in the nation for lifetime prevalence of violence against women. So if you add up domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking, we actually win the gold ribbon on that. And so these issues are really pervasive in our community.
That is not the gold ribbon that we want in our state. You know, we're also seeing families, as we saw today, we're seeing families that are murdered as well. Why is domestic homicide happening more frequently right now in Oklahoma?
I think it's a multitude of things. I think we have a criminal justice system that unfortunately isn't always able to hold perpetrators accountable. I think families in our communities are struggling, and that absolutely exacerbates violence. We know that violence is exacerbated during the summer months when it's hot. People are more irritable, people are angry. And so I think there are a multitude of factors. And so I really think it will take a community-wide shift for these issues to get better.
Representative Bennett, I want to address you now. You know, how do we turn things around when it comes to a legislative standpoint? What have lawmakers done and what are they doing?
I mean, from my perspective, we haven't done enough. And as I mentioned earlier with red flag laws, we've kind of gone in the wrong direction in some cases. But I will say that we've done some small things like making it easier for women who are going through domestic violence situations to get out of a lease early. We've had several legislators who are very interested in working on rape kit backlogs, and these are things that, were those investigations to be, fully finished through, we would identify more people who are likely to be perpetrators or have already been perpetrators in this case. But I mean, the bottom line, and I've talked to a few before we went on air, is we need to put people before politics. And I know it's hard for a lot of folks in Oklahoma. We are a gun-loving state, but we are a people-loving state too. And when something like this happens, or what happened several months ago up in northeastern Oklahoma, you really have to ask yourself, this violence is terrible. It was perpetrated by someone who was obviously intent on doing harm. It was made a whole lot easier by a gun. And so I think that we owe it to the people of Oklahoma to have a stronger conversation about that.
And Kim, I want to address you. Speaking of guns right now, when it comes to gun access, how does that play a role? And I know everyone has a different opinion when it comes to gun rights in our state, but specifically with a case like we saw today, how does gun access play a role here?
Well, we know that if you have a rage-filled abuser and easy access to something that is fatal, the chances of it ending up with an officer killed, a child killed, a woman killed, or even a Good Samaritan killed increases significantly. There is a significant correlation year after year. If you look at our fatality review, it is the one consistent denominator that can't be ignored. And so I think it's really time to have thoughtful discussions about how we can honor the Second Amendment and have responsible reform, but not have dangerous people have access to weapons and hurting people. And if we continue down this path, we're going to continue to bury kids. I mean,
Deputy Chief Clifton, how do you protect your children? How do you protect yourself?
I think the biggest issue we have in Oklahoma is normalizing the conversation. You've got to engage people in the family home, in the churches, in businesses. If you see it, say something to them. It's the allowance of them to continue down this path with nobody entertaining, just a simple conversation, and comfortable or not. It's got to happen, because as long as they think it's okay for them to continue down that path, they will.
What about a victim protective order? How do you go about getting that, and what exactly does it do for you?
It provides a level of security to you. Angela and Kim are great at working this. Let me say one thing real quick, is the meat of the issue with us has already been resolved. Our partnerships couldn't be stronger. We're very collaborative, communicate all the time. It's getting beyond us and getting to those victims. We have 37,000 calls in Oklahoma City alone that are domestic violence calls. That's their clientele. The 6,000 to become criminal acts, we're too late. We're already engaged as law enforcement. And I always say we need an army of advocates, literally, because that's the engagement level we need.
Kim, I see you're kind of wiping your eyes there. You're an advocate. This is what you do, and
I'm a mom.
It's still emotional. It doesn't ever get any easier, it seems.
Well, I think, okay, I'll pull it together. We know in this work that violence is predictable. We know it. Like, we've seen it. We see the escalation. And we also know that because it's predictable, it's preventable. It's a matter of priorities and resources. And so the state has proudly shared that we have a $9 billion savings. And I can't imagine what a better investment it would be in families, vulnerable families, than adequately funding victim services, adequately funding prosecutors, adequately funding DHS. I truly believe the A-team, people who show up every day, work the hardest cases in the state with the lowest pay, the highest stress, and the demand is so significant they can't do it. Like, it's statistically impossible for them to do it. And it's at the cost of families. So we have to determine what our priorities are.
If I could jump in there.
Yeah.
Her point about the $9 million savings that we have is right up my alley, and absolutely something that I thought about today and after a lot of things like this happen. When we passed our budget this year at the legislature, I made it a strong case for why I voted against it, because there was a lot of good stuff in it. But one thing that I pointed out was that the Healthcare Authority had requested a certain amount of money, and we were giving them a fraction of what they needed. They told us that there were going to be services that they were not going to be able to carry on because they weren't getting the funding that they needed. It's very hard for me to rubber stamp that, knowing that that money is sitting in a savings account when it could be helping these programs. And I know it's very advantageous for me to point that out right now, but these are the very reasons that it is hard for me to sit idly by and be okay with $9 billion in a savings account when we have, and it's not just Healthcare Authority, it's not just DHS, these organizations do incredible work, but it's because over the last decade plus, the state has defunded some of the most core social safety net programs that we need that keep families afloat. And as a result, nonprofits have taken on the brunt of that, and they are stretched paper thin right now. And so it really is up to the state. I know as a Democrat, it surprises no one to say that we should throw money at the problem, but that's one thing that we haven't done in Oklahoma in these areas, is throw money at this problem, and I would love to do that.
So the question is how? How do we get there? And I'd like to just hear from every single one of you, if we could go down the line. I'll start with you, Angela. How does change happen in Oklahoma so we are not at this level where we are number one, number two when it comes to women and families who are murdered?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is having the conversation, like Deputy Clifton said. we like to pretend that these issues aren't as big as they are in our communities, but we should be having the conversation. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to young women between the ages of 15 and 44. So it is astounding that we don't talk to our teenage girls about what healthy relationships look like, that we don't talk to our teenage boys about dating violence prevention. So we should be having these conversations early, so that people know what healthy relationships look like, so people know what services and resources exist in the community for them. And so I think if we start having the conversation, then that can help usher in change.
And we're going to get to resources in just a moment. Let me just finish going down the line. Deputy Chief Clifton, what do you see? What will it take for change to happen in our communities?
Education and acceptance that it's a significant problem. We do a heat map of domestic violence calls in the city, and there is no socioeconomic bound to domestic violence. Every neighborhood in this community has domestic violence in it. It's inside the home, so you don't see it, but there are flags that people can recognize and engage.
Kim?
Well, just to follow up with that, that it's more than just a family issue, and changing that narrative that this is a community issue, this is a public safety issue, this is a public health issue that affects all of us. I also, personally, I would love to see a statewide audit. Palomar is getting ready to embark in a local one, looking at our entire system from the time somebody calls 911, when they called, when they got involvement, why they didn't call, like what are the gaps that we can fix and work together and identify and fix to have better outcomes for families. I think that's really important. I also think it's really important in this day and age that we invest in technology significantly. Like I said earlier, we know the high risk cases, we can identify them, but we don't have the technology to communicate, to share information responsibly so they can have a heads up before something bad happens. So reverse notifications, things like that. And I think that if we were able to implement that correctly, we could literally save lives.
And Representative, so how do you get the majority on the same page to get everyone together when it comes to this issue?
That's the million-dollar question, for sure. But I'm happy to have an opportunity to clarify my throw money at the problem issue, because to her point, we need to have bolder conversations about that. And to the officer's point, we need to have direct, specific conversations about domestic violence and the resources that are available. And a lot of my colleagues sort of shy away from having some of these conversations because they're explicit and they are about adult topics. But as we know, and as we tragically saw today, kids are enduring adult situations all the time in every corner of our state. It's time for us to be serious about it and not be vague with our PSAs, to be specific about, we know that these are the issues. We are number one. We should not be. How do we together find ways to address it? And I mean, they come to the Capitol all the time and advocate and explain to legislators what works. They show them the statistics. So, I mean, I wish that I had a silver bullet answer for you, but when you're leading the horse to water but it won't drink, I don't know what you do.
Let's get to the resources, because that's valuable information for our viewers out there right now, because there may be someone who is sitting there watching and this may hit home to them in some way. So what are the services out there? If you need help, if someone watching needs help right now, who do they call? Where do they go? And what kind of help will they get?
Yeah. So there are lots of free confidential services that are available. And so someone can reach out to an advocate through the YWCA. They can also reach out through Palomar. All of the services that we provide at both agencies are free and open to the public. All you have to do is walk in the door and say, I think I need help. This may be the place where you can provide me with some assistance. And we'll help process through what all of your options may be. You don't have to engage with law enforcement to engage in advocacy services. I think that's sometimes a fear of some survivors. And so we can help process through what options are available and then walk that journey with you.
Do you have anything you wanted to add to that, Kim?
Sure. I mean, Palomar partners with everyone on this panel, and we have free resources as well. People can come in, no questions asked. They can work with a myriad of different service providers and reduce their risk for future harm, get information that's really victim-centered and client-centered. They get to cherry pick what they want, and I think that's really important for survivors.
And before we go quickly, Deputy Chief, what are the warning signs? What do people need to watch out for? Because sometimes it's not always physical.
It's not, but I think body language speaks much louder than words. seeing individuals in public, the way they act, the anger, the aggression, the submissive nature of a victim. You know what's going on. It's very hard for people to accept that and engage it, but we've got to if we want to make a true change.
We're talking about women, we're talking about children, we're talking about people in our community who we want to protect, and we want to have them in our community for a very long time. I truly appreciate all of you coming here today and having this conversation, and hopefully we'll get a chance to continue this conversation down the road. Thank you so much for taking the time, and hopefully this will make a difference. If you need help right now, that is the number to call. You can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It is 1-800-522-SAFE. That's 1-800-522-SAFE. Again, all of us can make a difference and save lives.